This episode of Now This Is Lit is brought to you by Audible. Check the link in the description to get your first Star Wars audiobook free. Everyone loves free things. Click that link. Do it. This show is also brought to you by our patrons. If you want to support the show in a different way, with just $1 a month, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/StarWarsLitPod. You can get a sticker. You can get access to an exclusive show that we do every month that's wild and chaotic and fun and something you can only get by becoming a member of the Patreon. There'll be so many more perks very, very soon. But for now, do you want a sticker? Do you want a sticker that has a Now This Is Lit logo? Because it's fantastic and I love them. But I also want to give them away because there's just a stack of stickers on my desk. So if you want one, $1 a month. Patreon.com/StarWarsLitPod. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. You're listening to Now This Is Lit, a podcast about Star Wars books, the people who make them, and the readers who just can't get enough of them. I'm your host, Meg Dowell. I use she, her pronouns. And I have many fond memories of LEGO Star Wars in its various forms over the years. And I'm not the only one. Graham Hancock feels the same way about LEGO Star Wars and how it shaped his fandom and how it shaped him as a person. That's why he wrote LEGO Star Wars: The Force of Creativity, which is out today. I have an interview for you with Graham. It's wonderful. I'm so glad that we got to talk about this book and LEGO Star Wars and what fandom means to us. I hope you enjoy our conversation. I always need to give people a minute, and I'm like, all right, look at the books. They're there. The books and other things.
All the cool Star Wars stuff.
Oh, the cool. No Lego up here, though. Downstairs, we got some. But it's like, that's the thing. It's like, you're a collector, and then you marry a collector of Star Wars things, and it's like, you like one thing, and they like another thing, and it's there's too many things. There's every time a new Lego shows up, I'm like, where are you going to put that? And he's like, don't ask me that question. That's not important right now.
Exactly. That's always the question for later, isn't it? Yeah. Never think about that as you're hitting pre-order or clicking add to basket.
Yeah, always. This is so exciting. I always love when I get to talk to people who are not in my time zone because I'm like, look how cool the world is and technology is, where we can just be anywhere and talk about Star Wars and all related fun things.
100%. It's so nice that we can actually now just like connect with people more easily and not have to deal with phone calls and delays and all of that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So cool. All right. Why don't we start by talking about Star Wars and Lego Star Wars and fandom. These are very important things to you, and I'd love to hear more about your kind of journey through like kind of discovering Star Wars, Lego Star Wars, and then we'll talk about how that has gotten you to where you are now. But first, how did this all start for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I vaguely remember sort of seeing Star Wars on TV when I was like quite a young kid and being intrigued by it. But the thing that really made me a Star Wars fan was in 1997 when the special edition came out at the cinema. I was just such a good age for it. And seeing it on the big screen and having that visceral experience for me was just, that was it. That was the light bulb moment. I loved this thing and I just wanted to access it as much as possible. And then alongside that, I was really into Lego. Like I had all sorts of Lego, second-hand, hand-me-down Lego, new Lego. Like I loved Lego Pirates. I loved Lego Castle. It was one of my favorite toys. But then a few years later, as time went on, I suppose I got a bit pretentious as a child, basically. I started to like read Star Wars comics and novels, and I thought, oh, I'm very high-minded now. I don't need toys. Um, and I felt like it was time to put kind of playtime away and start accessing things in that way. But the one thing in the world that could have kept me in Lego at that time was Star Wars. And then, sure enough, in the run up to the Phantom Menace being released, I walked into Toys R Us, and this is the thing, it was all phony because even though I was trying to tell myself I didn't want to play anymore, I was still going to Toys R Us to look at, toys and still going to the Lego section to have a look. But there was this end cap of Lego Star Wars toys, and it blew my mind. My two favorite things coming together in this way. And, I was able to convince myself that I was collecting them, not playing with them in the same way I'd played with Pirates and Castle. So I justified it in that way. But yeah, like I started buying Lego Star Wars sets and never looked back. I continued to buy this stuff all through my teenage years, obviously into adulthood. And yeah, it's just incredible that Star Wars was able to keep me in Lego. And I'm really relieved that it came along at that very precise moment for me.
Yeah. I went through a similar stage in my Star Wars fandom where I was probably like 12, 13, and I was like, Star Wars isn't cool anymore. Like, I can't like just be talking about Star Wars all the time. So I was like, nah, I don't care anymore. But that was not true. Still loved it. Still, like, I don't know, secretly looked at the books and watched the movies, but like there was that point where I was like, well, is Star Wars like still for me? And it's very
Yeah.
interesting how many people have a similar journey where they go through that period of time where they're like, I don't know if Star Wars is something I just loved as a kid and I've grown out of it, or it's something my parents loved and passed down to me, but I'm not sure if it's mine. And a lot of us, thankfully, found our own fandom and found that like, oh, Star Wars was something that I enjoyed when I was younger, but it is also something that is so meaningful to me that I still love it. And that's why we're doing this podcast, because I eventually was like, yeah, no, Star Wars is great. I'm never going to grow out of it.
It's just so nice when you can, when you reach that moment, when you just accept that there's nothing wrong with having, so-called childish pursuits like forever. Like, what's the point in growing up if you don't have to?
Right. Right. Exactly. And like with Lego and Lego Star Wars specifically, like I had a younger brother and he loved Lego, all Lego, and we had so much of it everywhere. And like I still get him Star Wars Lego for like his birthday. Like, and we're adults. But it's like it's one of those things where it brings not only him joy to get something like that. Of course, now it's getting harder because he has a job and buys things for himself. And I'm like, I don't know what you already have, but I can't ask you. Then it's not a surprise. So I just send him gift cards. But it brings him so much joy, but it also brings me so much joy to be able to give him something that I know that he not only loved when we were younger, but still does, and it still makes him happy. And like nothing makes me happier than being able to give that to someone. I love it.
It's so nice as well when you unwrap something on your birthday or on Christmas Day, and it's the same kind of thing you were unwrapping when you were a kid, and it gives you that connection. Like it really, I love it. You can't beat it.
Yeah. I really think Star Wars, we can think in depth about so many of the stories and connect with them, and that's so important. But like first and foremost, I think the older I've gotten, the most important thing has really become just it makes me happy. It makes us happy. It brings so many people joy. And like, being in a theater, for example, and seeing like a long time ago, Galaxy Far, Far Away come up on the screen, like I cry. I just burst into tears every time. And I'm like, why do I do that? It's because it just makes me feel a certain way. And I think that's so important to acknowledge when something like that just gives you that sense of like comfort and like, oh, I have had this in my life for so long and it's just here forever.
Absolutely. Like every single time I put a Lego minifigure together and you put the legs on the torso and the head and the hat and everything, like comforting is such a good word for it. Yeah.
So you have now worked on a very exciting project that kind of brings one of these things that makes you so happy and has made you so happy for so long, brings it all together, and you've gotten to do that. tell us about the book.
Yeah, so this year is 25 years since Lego Star Wars launched. It launched in 1999, ahead of the Phantom Menace, with sets based on the classic trilogy and then the Phantom Menace itself. So it's run uninterrupted since then. It's got to be one of the longest running Star Wars product lines at this stage. And so we wanted to celebrate that with a big, beautiful, detailed coffee table book that goes super in depth for Lego fans, for Star Wars fans, that gets nerdy, that gets into the detail, that has loads of cool imagery and everything, and just really celebrate everything about this collaboration between Lego and Lucasfilm. Yeah, it was a really, really, I mean, whenever I talk about it, I just can't stop smiling because it was such a fun project to work on, and because of where I started, because of how much Lego Star Wars means to me personally, to then get to actually write this book was, it was a dream project. There's no other way of putting it.
Was there a moment when you were working on this book that you kind of sat back and were like, I never imagined that that I would be here doing this, but I am? When did it like hit you that you're like, oh, I'm writing a book about Lego Star Wars?
I kind of used it as a way to remind myself every time that it was getting a bit late or that there was a particular milestone to hit or something, and things were very busy and hectic. I just took a moment to remind myself, if you could go back and tell your like 10-year-old self when you bought your first Lego Star Wars set that this is what it was going to lead to, that kid would be thrilled. So just think about it that way. Just remember why you're so happy to be doing it. So I just always use that as a motivation to really kind of push myself and keep going. And think about everyone else out there who really loves this stuff and really push to make sure that, we didn't leave any stone unturned, and anything that is possible for us to include in the book, we would include in the book. But yeah, no, I mean, I joke that like I was doing 25 years of research for this book without realizing it, because I was just happily collecting away and doing my Lego thing. And then, yeah, all of that so-called useless knowledge suddenly became super useful.
That's like the dream, right? It's like, oh, I have all these things in my head that I'm never going to use, but it turns out, oh, wait, that might actually be useful.
Exactly. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit because my other job is I edit a monthly Lego magazine called Blocks.
Yeah.
So, I already dive deep into the kind of memory banks to pull this stuff out on a regular basis. But the book took it to another level.
Oh, I love that. What do you think is one of the, you don't have to pick one if you want to do multiple, what's one of the most interesting things you think you learned while working on this book that you think potential readers and Lego Star Wars fans are really, really just going to be excited about?
The thing that I think really strikes me about what we discovered writing the book is that when you think of a toy being designed and developed, like a Lego set is so different to an action figure or a role play item, and not necessarily like more difficult or anything. It's just a slightly different approach that the creatives have to take to make these toys, because they're using this system of elements. They're not kind of doing a sketch and then having it sculpted. They've got to use this library of Lego pieces that has been developed over decades. And, sometimes they'll introduce new pieces and things, but in general, they're using the pre-existing parts. So just kind of talking to the model designers about their process and just what a unique discipline it is. So that's pretty fascinating in and of itself. But then when you think about all of the other people who are then involved to make it happen, the guys who do come up with the new elements, the people who design the graphics for the minifigures and the stickers and things, and then the quality people and the people who make the building instructions and the people who make sure that it's fun to build, because that's the other side to it. These guys aren't just designing a beautiful model that will look nice on the shelf. They're designing it in a way that when you sit down to build it, it's going to be fun, it's going to be engaging, It's not going to be something that feels like a chore to do. So, and they're thinking about how children will play with it, and what kind of play features they can put into it, and how to keep it accurate to the film whilst doing all of these other things and keeping them in mind. So for me, just kind of getting that big story about what goes into designing these models, like, it just gives me an extra appreciation for them when you sit down to build one of them and you've got all this information in your head about how this has come to be and all of the different people who have been involved in it. I think it's such a kind of fascinating thing.
My brother and I went to Star Wars Celebration in Chicago in 2019, and I don't remember what the set was now, but he went to buy one of the Lego Star Wars sets that were there. And as we were standing there, we realized that the designers of that set were also right there. And they were like, do you want to take a photo and do you want us to sign this for you? And so he still has it. And of course, the downside of that was he's like, I'm never going to open or build this now because I have their signature on the box. But it was the first moment I really thought of like, oh, like there are people who get to make these sets come to life and bring so much joy to so much people. And like that was such a cool moment for him who has loved Lego Star Wars forever, but also for me, as someone who just has seen Lego everywhere all the time, but you don't always think about the people behind the sets that you love so much. But they do such great work and they're so passionate about it. And it's so cool to see what they do. And I'm so excited for everyone and myself to read more about all of this in your book that will be out by the time we're listening to this. So I'm so glad that you got to work on a project like this that combined, so many things that you're passionate about, and you got to learn more, and now everyone else gets to learn more too.
Yeah, I mean, I hope people really love it. And, thinking about the people behind the Lego and everything, one of the reasons that we love Star Wars so much and appreciate it so much is we've read these amazing, beautiful books about how the films are made. Yeah. So we know names like, John Knoll and Rob Coleman and Ralph McQuarrie and all of these guys. And, hopefully this book does the same for the guys who work on Lego Star Wars, and we can get an extra level of appreciation for what they're doing and how they're bringing this thing to life.
Yes, exactly. That's the hope. Because every creator who is doing such great work deserves recognition for that and just deserves to be able to share their passion with as many people as possible. And that's why we love Star Wars books here. And why I'm particularly excited about this one, because it is a book about, a particular, subset of the fandom that we don't get to hear as much about, but it's the anniversary is a perfect time to do that. Thank you so much for being willing to talk to me about this. We talk a lot about novels and things on here, but I love getting to talk about books like this also that are a little bit different, but in a good way, because we need a variety and we need different things covered and talked about and different people who like different things to be excited about Star Wars. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. No, thank you so much for having me. It's been so fun to talk to you about it. And it's so great just to hear about other people's Star Wars stories and Lego Star Wars stories and connect with other people who have that same passion for this.
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much. Now This Is Lit is part of the Faraway Fandom Network. It is produced by Devor Montum and written, hosted, and edited by me. Jose Jimenez designed our podcast art. You can keep up with the show on Substack at Now This Is Lit, and find the show wherever you get your podcasts. There are so many ways you can support the show, and all of those ways are linked in the show description. The newest way is to become a member of our Patreon. For $1 a month, you can get access to an exclusive show and a sticker. And if we get 500 people to support the Patreon per month, I can hire an editor. That would be great for me, and maybe for you too. So if you'd like to support the show with just $1 a month, you can do it that way. Or you can just keep listening and sharing the episodes. That is also helpful, and I appreciate it. For more book reviews and Star Wars Book Celebration, follow Star Wars Book Reviews on Instagram and TikTok.